here. I would ask you. Yeah. Wherever. And he has it under a cover on the street. Really, I'm good. They came home one night and the cover was folded up. And I had to figure something out with everyone being behind it. It was the same thing. Let's go on. Because he trusted me. Yeah. And he could have raised it. Yeah, no, yeah. And it just happened to be that same day. And he said to me, he said, these lizard and jungle rates and their incidents.
Fleetwood engine.
It wasn't really that nice that day, so I was yeah, no, the collar was still, and he said it was so windy that day and stuff, and he said it was like too nice. I said, I'm sorry, I'm encroaching on your space. Yeah. You're right, why not?
All right, I'll make sure that you
it's just one of those things where you have to cover everything. Yes, but it's
Hello.
We babysat all day today. We just got home. Yeah.
How you doing?
make sure that, did everyone sign in?
when I sit down.
I have a meeting, you have to ask about this. When we had
I don't remember.
Okay, then I'll just skip over till you're coming to the meeting on Thursday.
Yeah, we'll probably be here.
And I never do. Even out last month. I saw poor Jeremy.
If I have something.
Call the meeting to order. Please rise and place the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Hassler.
Here.
Mr. Hart.
Here.
Ms. Cook.
Here.
Ms. Falcone.
Here.
Ms. Eisenhart. Here. Ms. Plummer. Here. Mr. Miller is absent.
For the record, an executive session was held on January 25th and January 29th, both regarding labor negotiations with Teamsters Local 773, and also an executive session tonight prior to our meeting regarding potential litigation and personnel matters. Next is approval of minutes.
There are no minutes for approval. We do have 2 helpers in the community who are volunteering to help with the minutes, and we thank you very much.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you very much. That's great. That help is very seriously needed. That's wonderful. So next is an interview of Borough Council candidates for appointment. Do we have someone who sent in a letter of interest? Could you come up and take the hot seat, please? We're not scary at all. It's just, you know. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
I grew up in Topton, moved away, resettled here. During the day, basically a production manager in a cryogenics facility.
Oh, wow.
That is union-based, so I'm very familiar with all of those.
But you're in management, so are you in the union?
Could you speak up because we have, you're not facing the audience and we also have YouTube. We also have a camera here and the
Yeah.
audio needs to pick it up.
Okay. That's not, no, I'm not, actually, no.
Okay. We're going through negotiations now. Some of our workers wanted to unionize. We're going through negotiations. We have a lot of financial difficulties in Topton, and that makes it hard for us to do anything with our budget. Have you worked with budgets at all with your management experience?
There.
Great. Okay, anybody else have questions?
Go ahead.
Okay, what other job skills do you have to bring to the table that you think could help us?
You manage. Right now I have about 50 people, but in the past I've had over 200 to myself, you know. I used to work at Mack Truck at one time. I had a lot of people there. It's a very, very big team.
So you oversee 50 people roughly?
Yeah,
What type of management do you provide?
it's pretty much
Oversight.
production. So it's, you know, scheduling, normal stuff that you do as a production manager, budgets, I do, some spreadsheets here and there, trying to stay away from those as much as I can. A lot of communication every single day. So, like I said, problem solving, I can stand if I'm going off the job.
I have a question. What is the most important thing about Topton? When you think of Topton, what do you think of?
Well, I had a lot of fun growing up here. You know, raising a daughter here. She's 8, so I'm trying to, you know, have the same experience that I had for her. You know, and I obviously, things are going on. I pay taxes here and stuff like that, so I'm kind of interested in knowing where my
Okay, I'm
money
gonna
goes.
ask you an odd question. If you put on a jacket and you find a $20 bill in your jacket, in your pocket, is it gonna burn a hole in your pocket and go out and spend it, or are you one that would save it?
Only if my daughter. No, I am I would rather keep it.
Save for a rainy day.
Yeah, I would rather. I'm all about retirement. So I'm always trying to figure out ways to save.
Okay. I have no other questions. Anyone else?
What do you think the role is of Borough Council in our community?
One of the reasons why I put my name in is kind of figure it out, but I would think mainly it would be to, you know, transparently, I guess, discuss where the money's going, why the decisions are made the way they are. And, you know, sometimes you're gonna ruffle some feathers or whatever it is, but as long as you can explain it, then make it make sense. Clear and concise and, you know, the words.
You just said something that I have a question about. You just said rules are rules. can you ever think outside of that rules or rules? You know, you mean, sometimes, I know you want to go this way, but sometimes you have to kind of go either left or right, you can't keep going down the same straight
You can
path.
find point A to B, and sometimes you might not find C before it, but you do find it.
So you can think
You can navigate.
other ways,
I
okay.
would hope so.
How do you handle conflict, especially with like,
I don't know, sir. I mean, I'm head for bell, and you can scream to the top of your lungs, you're not gonna get anywhere but that. Try to follow it through. I've had my fair share of people screaming in my face over the years. It's just a matter of, you know, calm your head and move for bed eventually, you know. Go with kindness.
Anything else, Julie?
I'm good.
Lynn? Kathy, you done?
Okay, you're a registered voter more than a year. Okay.
So we will take, I guess, a roll call vote. One candidate, whether we should.
I guess the question, what you do is you ask for a motion appointing and a second, and then roll call vote.
I'll make a motion to appoint.
I'll make a second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No need for roll call vote.
No,
We'll switch to that seat now. Right there.
This seat.
You'll need to
First,
take your-
if you could go in front of Elaine, please.
You'll need to sit down.
I know what that is. I know what it is.
we can give you a note.
Yeah, I mean, you just, yeah, no, you don't need to just,
On my voter stand.
We find the right paper here.
Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this country. And I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Here. Here, or- Council?
Kill crew, all right. We'll sign this later.
So everyone, in case you don't know, this is Scott Stocklet of 28 East Smith Street.
So you're gonna do the notary?
I'll do that after.
Okay. So you want to handle,
Okay, well, right, okay, the next thing that we're going to do. Because the individual who had resigned, Dan Haney was the president of council, we're going to have to do a reorganization to appoint a new council president. I don't believe we have to appoint a new council vice president, we just have to appoint a new council president. We'll do the same as we do with reorganization. We'll ask for nominations. Nominations don't require a second, and then take a vote until a majority is reached. So I'll ask for nominations for council president.
I'd like to make a nomination.
Okay, Kathy was first.
I'd like to nominate Scott Orr. I think Scott, at this point, for how short a time he's been on council, has taken the initiative to step up and show great leadership. I mean, he has solved a lot of problems within the town. You know, he has gone and learned the sewer treatment plant. He's learned water treatment. He's taken that initiative. He learned how to do the plows and everything, you know, put them on, take them off, do whatever.
Okay.
Just being
All right, and this nomination, we don't need second. Are there any other nominations?
To nominate Carol President.
Okay, nominate Carol Cook.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Carol because of her years of experience on the council.
And do we have any other nominations? All right, we'll take the votes by roll call in order of the nominations. We'll start with Councilman Arndt. Stacy, if you could do a roll call.
Sorry, alphabetical. Mr. Arndt?
Yeah. Yes.
It's okay. Ms. Cook?
No.
Ms. Eisenhart?
No.
Ms. Falcone?
No.
Ms. Hassler?
Yes.
Ms. Plummer?
Yes.
3-3.
The Scott.
Oh, stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did that last time too. Mr. Stock.
For Scott.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, so his,
Wait, you just told him for Scott.
Well, that's so that he would know who it was for. It wasn't telling him he had to vote yes.
We were Mr. Stock.
Okay, yeah,
Mr. Arndt,
because-
Mr. President.
all right, so we have 4 votes, so that's a majority of council present, so. All right, so Councilman Arndt will now be council president.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I did that the last time.
And just for the record, Scott,
We can do it from here.
Yeah, why don't you go from there this time, I think make it easier. All right, so at this point, we'll start then with communications received.
And the only communication we have on tonight's agenda is from Mr. Stanley Bauman, who is in the front row, if you'd like to address council.
Yeah, we are, we're gonna be purchasing, I have a property to purchase under agreement of sale. So I'm gonna be doing it as, it's 7 North Fulton Avenue, I'm assuming they got the email.
Correct.
So my only question is, Julie, are you still on the planning?
Yes.
Okay, so I've been doing some homework, and my question was, I'm just trying to feel my way through, I don't wanna buy a cat in the bag, where, okay. So what I know I have to go to the planning commission, I've talked to Joe, a couple of times.
I think they suggested you go to the
Zoning.
hearing board.
All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
what do you need zoning relief for?
Well, the only reason I needed was the parking overlay for the off-street parking, there isn't any.
Okay, so you need a variance for parking then?
Right, but what I'd like to check first, because it's by right, like when he sent that, I called him, but
Your
it's,
apartment's not by right, just the wood shop would be by right.
no, the second floor apartments are by right
Right,
in the zoning. If you look in the zoning on commercial, second floor
I was.
apartments.
Okay, here, what I'm seeing
So,
in the letter from,
That's what I'm wondering is, do I start at the planning commission, because there's no sense.
let me answer that for you. The best thing to do is start with the use, and that means going to the zoning hearing board. I'm looking at the letter received from Joseph Hoffman at Barry Azette. And what it says is that land and buildings in the C1 district, which is where the property is
Yeah,
located,
that was the
can be used
First
for residential conversion and apartments by special exception, and you'll also need the
It
parking.
isn't by special exception.
it is on the paper.
For second floor apartments,
Just apartments in general.
commercial,
Fred, this is Fred, Mr. President.
But again, I'll start at the planning commission.
Okay, now you need to start to make sure, before you go to the planning, here's why, I'm on your side of the table quite a bit, so let me just tell you why. When you go to the planning commission, you're going to need engineered plans that are more expensive. It's far cheaper to do a concept and present it to the zoning hearing board to make sure that you're allowed to do it. So you start at the zoning hearing board, and then you go to the planning commission if it's approved at the zoning hearing board level. Because if it's not approved, then you're gonna have to make a decision as to either literally back to the drawing board or you appeal to court. Now, I don't, I'm representing the borough here, so, and I do recommend that you get a lawyer who's experienced in land use to do, to help you with the zoning hearing board and planning commission process. But, but you definitely go to I would definitely recommend that you go to the zoning hearing board first, just for your sake financially.
Like secondary, I mean, I know the first letter was a denial because of that, but I've been in communication with him because we scratched the number 4, and then at that point, it is bye-bye. So my question is, I don't mind, and I did pay Joe for his services a little bit, and I'll pay for that. I'm not looking for it for free. It's just, I'm trying to cut the process. Before I have it drawn, I do a sketch plan myself. I'm more than capable. And then we'll have it drawn up by an engineer. But at this point, I walked through a couple of properties already the same way because the parking, as a commercial at 200 square feet per commercial, takes a lot more parking off the street than two spots.
Believe me, I understand about parking. I represent clients before the zoning hearing board in the city of Reading all the time as having to ask for parking variances, so I totally understand.
So I'll go to the zone.
But you will, you'll need to go to the zoning hearing board on at least the parking, if not the use, but you should get an attorney to represent you, to help you navigate the process with the zoning and planning.
Okay.
I really recommend that you do that.
I mean, when I did it with Bob Green here, it was right through.
Right, he was the zoning hearing board. I don't know if he's still the zoning hearing board. Our zoning hearing board doesn't meet very much here.
No, I seen it was 22.
Yeah.
And even the planning commission, we don't have active quarterly. So I guess I should allow myself another 6 months because I started this 3 or 4 months ago.
Not necessarily, because sometimes if the plan is simple, sometimes it can be done as a sketch to final or preliminary / final. If it's a small project, most municipalities aren't going to make you go through the full land development process. I don't recommend that.
Yeah, I'm not doing any buildings, I'm altering.
Right, so, right, and that probably will be more along the lines of a building permit than land development, but you may touch on land development, you have to go to the planning commission, but again, you might need to at least consult an attorney for some advice, if not have an attorney represent you in the process, but I definitely think you should get some advice on it.
I just wanna, I'm gonna see if I can clarify that special, because I didn't see it that way, it was permitted. Unless I'm looking at the wrong thing, but I haven't mine that
Yeah, I
says
saw
it's
that you
permitted.
wrote yours up in the,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and that's why I didn't see, that's why I didn't understand. But, so we'll hit the zoning hearing board. And again, I'm just doing this prior to me purchasing it, because I'd like to know.
Right, no, it's good.
And we are planning on cleaning up, take some of the trees down.
It's good.
Do we have a historical district here?
Nope.
Because that was 1800s. I mean, we're not gonna trash the house, we're just gonna fix it up. But.
Right, no, that would create another board that you'd have to go to the history.
No, that's fine.
I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I don't do that.
Sure, you guys got it on.
The second floor, you're right. If you go to the one you said first, I'm saying.
Yeah, it's just the second floor, I have the article exactly what it's at. That's fine, right?
Okay, that's what I was sure.
Yep, the first floor.
Yep.
Thanks much. See you later.
The mayor's absent, police report?
Yes.
All right, so Chief compiled the numbers for December. Total for Topton incidents handled was 21. No crash investigations. 11 traffic citations were issued, no arrests were made. We investigated 1 UCR reportable crime. 19 vehicle stops in total were conducted. 5 hours spent on investigative follow-up, 2 hours spent on court. Our monthly totals, which includes Fleetwood Borough, Richmond Township, Topton Borough, and Ruskin Manor Township, so all of those combined for the month of December, we handled a total of 345 incidents, 25 crash investigations. We issued 80 traffic citations, made 11 arrests, handled 17 UCR reportable crimes, conducted 89 vehicle stops, 41 hours were spent on investigative follow-up, and 29 hours were spent on court. Chief has written here, just no significant activities to report for Topton. The citation breakdown was 8 parking citations, 1 citation for driving under suspension, 1 for expired inspection, and 1 school zone violation. We also investigated a possible Megan's Law violation in the borough, but the issue was resolved and no charges needed to be filed on that.
Could you elaborate on the UCR reportable crime?
I don't have any additional information other than what the chief's provided here, so I can check with him and get back to you about that. Yeah, I'm not sure. It only says 1 for Topton, and the fact that we investigated a Megan's Law violation would probably be that one, but I can't say for sure.
Okay, if you could find out for sure.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
Yep, no problem. Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question. I had seen on residents of Topton that there was a officer giving out tickets. And it was a big to-do that it was about expired inspection and, you know, I believe if it's warranted a ticket, you pay it.
Correct.
They're saying they could fight it because the ticket was to the Borough Police Department, and since we don't have a Borough Police Department, that it was a bogus ticket. What's the status on that?
So the parking ticket you're saying was,
It says Topton
The parking
Police on
says-
the
The
bottom.
parking ticket was stated
Callowhill
Topton
Street.
And it was
And-
found that
Sorry, what?
the
I'm sorry,
it's okay, go ahead, Carol.
and it's a picture here, and it's by, do we have an officer?
Back a seat?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
So is this a legitimate ticket, or can they fight it,
Because
or
it says
not?
Topton Police at the bottom.
Because it says Topton Borough Police, 205 South Callowhill Street, Topton, PA.
The ticket says Topton Borough Police.
Yes.
Do you mind if I look at it?
No, not at
Well,
all.
so why our ticket books without Topton Borough Police?
these are pre-printed forms that are
They are.
UCR
Okay.
that were supplied to Fleetwood Police when they obtained a contract with the Borough of Topton to service Topton.
Yeah, most, you know, again, I don't know how a judge would rule on it, but the Fleetwood Police are the police department authorized in the Borough of Topton,
Correct.
and with the power to write tickets and make arrests in the Borough of Topton. So I doubt that that's the kind of technicality that would get a ticket dismissed, but I don't know how.
Someone had said they fought it and won, so, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a waste of time for our police department to be doing this work if word gets out, oh, don't pay it, you know, it's
Yeah, I
not
mean,
legit.
and we don't know that's information on social media, we don't know
Exactly.
whether it's reliable or not, but I don't believe most judges would throw out a ticket on that kind of technicality. I've seen tickets thrown out where they were addressed to the wrong party, where it was a non-traffic citation and a corporation owned the property was made out and the ticket was issued to the individual. I've seen tickets thrown out because a wrong section was cited or no subsection was cited. But something like that where this is the police department with the power to write tickets in the Borough of Topton and with arrest powers in the Borough of Topton, I don't believe that would be grounds for throwing out, but again, I don't know what a particular judge did, whether it was the local magisterial district judge, whether it was a common pleas court judge. There's a lot of information that we don't have. And there may have been other errors in the ticket as well that caused it to be thrown out. Because the Commonwealth, the police always have the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt in any criminal case, and that includes traffic, which is summary criminal. So, so it's difficult to say based on what you see online, but there could be any number of reasons.
So should they be using the Fleetwood tickets?
I'll check on that.
Check on
Is that the first time you're hearing about that? The first time I'm hearing
Yeah,
about it.
it's about the, yeah,
It's
maybe about the last
something
month.
it's something that should be checked on
Yeah.
and see if if that was the reason or another reason. And, if the pre-printed form is usually the correct form to use, but if there's something wrong with the pre-printed form and it's causing tickets to be thrown out, then they need to get a new stock of pre-printed forms that correctly identifies the department.
Do you have the name of the person that was issued to?
Oh, there was a long thread here.
Oh, I think I know who it was.
I think Haley Nicole posted it.
Yeah, and this, I took a picture of
This was
this.
the other one that I had on the list.
I'm not sure when this was.
Only because if I have the name, I can just pull up the report and then potentially check with Judge Sheffo's office, to find out more details. That's supposed to be done.
That she complained also and said that she got a ticket from, Topton Police.
Was she complaining about the ticket in general, or was she complaining about this?
A
specific
ticket that she
ticket in
got,
general.
and
I
it
mean,
said Topton.
Okay.
If you're way past due, I mean, it's a safety violation,
Yeah.
for inspection.
I mean,
Do
it's
the right
the
thing.
borough ordinance, yeah, I mean, we
You know?
didn't write the ordinance, unfortunately, so,
Right.
and obviously, we were, contracted here for a reason, and, we're here to enforce the borough's ordinances as they stand, so, if your inspection, and to Joan's point, I mean, yes, the judge would ultimately make that decision, but I would agree that, I mean, as long as the reasoning behind the citation is valid, that the inspection and or registration were expired, that ticket would probably stand. But still probably an issue that we wanna look into, at least
Right.
check to see if all of those ticket booklets that were printed, if they all say Topton Borough Police Department, because as we see, people will probably look for any sort of technicality to get that ticket thrown out. So, I'll double check on that, and if they need to be reprinted, certainly we'll make sure that gets done as
Okay,
soon as
thank you.
possible.
Thank you.
And if for some reason that would like invalidate a ticket or whatever, for the time being, we can use our computer system in the car instead of handwriting those parking tickets.
You are contracted to be our Topton police.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's actually not incorrect, what it says on there.
yeah, I mean, I get what people are, again, on that technicality, that it's not technically Topton Borough Police, it's the Fleetwood Borough Police, so, I will get clarification on that for you and let you guys know. Okay?
Does Fleetwood have a DOT officer?
Yes.
Was there any thought given that we could set up a DOT checkpoint out on Jefferson Street or near Jefferson Street?
I would have to talk to Sergeant Folk, he's our NextApp guy for that, so, I don't know what all is involved with setting those up. I know it's a pretty coordinated effort that's
Right.
required with multiple departments, but yes, that's certainly I can talk about. Where were you saying about setting one up?
Jefferson Street,
Okay.
out by the car wash.
Okay, yep. Okay. Yep, I will send Sergeant Folk an email about that.
Also, I would like to find out, I guess week by week, which 40 hours were charged to us. Was it 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Monday, or was it midnight to 4 a.m. on Thursday, or?
For the month of December?
Actually, January.
Oh, for January? Okay.
and whatever has been done, we've completed 1 week in February.
Okay, so you wanna know what specific shifts
Yes,
were scheduled in Topton
we're done and we're
for
billed to
January and so far in February?
Topton.
Okay.
Yeah, that were billed to Topton. as
Okay,
They were here and
okay.
Is that it? Hearing of visitors?
she's making notes here. I have one more thing.
Okay, sorry.
I can tell you that there won't be anything past 2 AM because we're only one car on from 2 AM to 7 AM. So anything that's scheduled here is between the hours of 7 AM. And it would have to stop at 2 PM. Or 2 AM, I'm sorry. 7 AM to 2 AM, yeah. But I can get you the specifics, that's fine. What was your other question?
Yes, we've been having a lot of response from the state police. And I was wondering how it works with the phone, if you could explain to council. When they call, and they think they're calling you, but instead they're being put over to the state police.
Yes.
Because you're off duty or something.
Correct. Yeah, so if someone calls 911 or calls the non-emergency line and they live in Topton, they're asking for an officer to respond, the dispatch center will take a look at the board to see who is signed in for Topton. If Fleetwood Borough does not have an officer assigned, then that caller is told that they have to contact state police because we're not on duty.
Okay. So if it's not within what we're on the schedule for that day,
Correct.
they automatically go to state police.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Is that it? Hearing of visitors?
In regards to the police, Brian Fries from Smith Street, I know their contract runs out in the end of this year. Is the borough, I know you have enough on your plate now, where's the borough stand in regards to getting Fleetwood again, Albertus, or are we going with state police? Are we working anything out at
All
this time?
questions are addressed to you.
We haven't started working on that to my knowledge.
Okay.
Dan had, before he left, Dan had designated Guy, being mayor, to look into options, right?
Okay. It's something that can't wait till like December to decide. It has to be. And I know you guys are busy now. It's gonna add
A
more.
lot has to happen before.
Yes, I agree.
So
Okay.
It has to happen quickly and smartly.
Yes, I agree. Okay, just curiosity question.
Mary Ellen?
Mary Ellen Monahan on Main Street. Something was said at last meeting, and I don't want to disparage anyone. However, there was a comment made that a certain person was the best president that ever served on council. When I was on council, Dale Cullen was the head. That man could walk on water as far as I'm concerned. He was council president for 25 years. And he was the president for 25 years. He was on council for 29. That man made everyone that walked in this room feel so comfortable, so important that, to me, if someone was going to say, what is a board president, it was him. And it was just gnawing at me that, old timers, I guess. That man, he was just a phenomenal guy, and he showed me the ropes. I would never have done anything against his will because he was an A1 president of council. So I just wanted to throw that out, and let's not forget Dale.
Mary Ellen, I would have to agree with you. I used to come to many meetings. He was incredible. He was a true professional. And between his reign as president and Dan's, we didn't have too many people I could speak highly of. So that's what. But as I said, in the last couple of decades, and I think I may have been the one who made that remark, I thought Dan did a fabulous job in the limited time he was here. but I agree with you, that Mr. Cullen was fabulous. He did a lot for this community.
I mean, to smooth everything over, I mean, you could be angry as get out, and he would listen to you, he would think about it, and he'd say, well, why don't we try this? You know, and he was just an amazing president and an amazing guy. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, solicitor, Joan?
Okay, first item is 546 Celia Avenue. I had some discussions with Elder Care Solutions, and they have agreed to pay the borough's costs in the amount of $4,182.99, which includes sewer and water liens and the cost of maintenance contracts for the property. I circulated a receipt and release agreement with my proposed minor changes, and this would end the litigation with the agency that provided guardianship services. Ms. Foss has recently passed away, so there is no further guardianship. The guardian has no further powers. So this would resolve the issues with the petition with respect to their Elder Care Solutions Act as guardian. And I'll need a motion for council to approve the receipt and release agreement with Elder Care Solutions.
I'd like to make that motion. I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? All right, call for the vote.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
In the event that the settlement, that for some reason settlement would not work out, there is a court date. It had been continued from January 31st. It's been continued to February 28th, 2025, but most likely we will not need to go to court. We are still working with contact with the family to attempt to get an estate opened and to get the property remediated so it's not a continuing issue on that block. So we'll continue to work with that family member. The next item on my agenda is meeting with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. You saw in the note for the record that there had been executive sessions held with Attorney Boland on January 25th and January 29th regarding those negotiations. The ordinance fixing the tax rate amendment, I have prepared the ordinance, or should I say I've revised the ordinance that sets a tax rate of 7.4 mils with fire tax of 0.65 mils and EMS tax at 0.5 mils. And as has been authorized, that will be advertised on February 24th for adoption at the March meeting. The amendment of agreement with Topton Volunteer Fire Company for extension. The fire company is reviewing that. And the final item is that this month, the Animal Rescue League developed an option of a fee-for-service option for municipalities that need some baseline of animal control services but are not able to pay the much higher rates that the Animal Rescue League has been charging. Over the past few years, the Animal Rescue League has considerably increased its rates. Some municipalities are staying with the Animal Rescue League for their animal control services, most notably the city of Reading. Others have switched to other providers, including Brandywine SPCA and Safety Net Sanctuary in Fleetwood. Those contracts also have a cost and maybe more than would be needed by a municipality with the size and population of Topton that uses animal control services only sporadically. This fee-for-service option was offered to the borough that has a stray, because it has a historic stray animal intake of less than 15 stray dogs each year for the fee-for-service option. What the fee-for-service option has is an animal intake fee of $200 per animal, plus a zone pickup fee. Topton is in Zone 3, which is because it is furthest outlined from Coomer Township. It is $150 per pickup. If more than one employee would be required for safety reasons, although I don't believe they will pick up known aggressive dogs. If more than one employee is required, then half the price of the zone fee, which would be $75, would be charged for that additional employee. They would not be taking in cats. It would only be, or other animals. It would only be stray dogs. And there are a number of services that would not be included, including citations and warrants under the dog law, rabies testing, investigations, and certain holidays would be excluded as well, the usual legal holidays of New Year's, Easter, Memorial Day, July 4th, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And again, this would be, again, a fee-for-service option. Are there any questions about it?
I have some information. You probably do too. I don't know if you want me to speak or you
Go
want
ahead.
to go in. Dan had looked into this, and one of the things he learned was the police are required, if we have a dog that we want taken to this place, the police are required as part of their service to us to take it. So we wouldn't need to be charged the pickup fee,
Right,
which
because,
is a big savings.
right, a designated individual can take it, and whether it would be the manager or the police, so.
And also, there was a document that isn't stapled to what I have here that said cats, the neutering for $50.
Right, there's an option where you can have trap, neuter, release encouraged for $50. I have seen that.
As part of this. So
Yes.
this is a big savings because Net Sanctuary was going to $3,000 a year for us, and we had like 3 dogs last year. Ridiculous. So it's a huge savings to the borough.
So, do you have any add to that?
No.
With your notes in it, would we wanna see if we wanted to get, do we have a crate, and do we have, the microchip scanning?
We don't have that.
Right.
You might wanna get a dog crate.
According to-
Yeah, you might wanna get a dog crate just to be able to house the animal safely, humanely, until it can be taken down to the animal rescue league.
And that's a question we should probably, so like on a holiday, we have a dog that's roaming around. what do we do?
And you can also put it up on Burke's Dog Search too. That is also part of the agreement, the reasonable efforts.
We do that
should be made.
first, yeah.
Right.
Do we house the dog until it's, like, do we care for the dog until it gets?
Well, you could, just for a few hours until you can take it, again, until you can take it in.
Many, many years ago, our dog got loose, and I got a call, because they had a collar and all identification, and they said, go to the sewer plant, and it's inside the fence. So I went to the sewer plant, there was my dog running around, so very easy. I don't know how everybody feels about that these days.
Well, I mean, it's all the more reason to use identification and microchips is really what.
I think we need to do something. Support that.
Motion to
You
move
can.
forward with this?
Be a motion to enter into the fee-for-service agreement with the Animal Rescue League in accordance with General Memorandum of Understanding.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, unless anybody has any questions, that's all I have under my report. Yeah.
Mayor, I know it's not our time, but didn't know this was gonna come up. What's being amended to our, or revised with the tax rate? Like, that's what it is, what's,
Oh, the tax rate isn't being changed, it's just being broken out to show the fire tax and the EMS tax.
do you mean on our tax bills? Because I know the last time they weren't. Is that what you're talking about, or what?
Well, no, it's broken out so that it shows in the ordinance what amount is the fire tax and what
Oh.
amount is the EMS tax.
Okay, I thought that always was like that. Okay, thank you.
Stacy?
I have been working with Trinda and the auditors on our 2024 audit. They sent us a draft DCED audit report over the weekend. It's in draft form, so I'll probably work with Kathy to review and make sure everything is fine. There are other things that are holding it up, like responses to emails. The W-2s were completed for all employees. We are working still with G-Works, which is our IT solution software for billing, accounts payable, payroll. They are having trouble matching their software up to the PA chart of accounts, so that is the holdup now. We have right here a request for IT services responses. We received 7, including our current contract. And we received the signed agreement for the ambulance. It has to go through the borough as the party who requested the grant. So it is now signed. That's my report. The proposals that were authorized to be received from an RFP went through PFM, and they're here to present the results of the RFP. Jamie, do you want to introduce your coworker?
Yep, this is Cole Thayer. He's working with me and Borough on this financing itself. I'll kind of briefly go through the background. I won't get into the full details like we did the last meeting. I know that we were council members, so you may not have heard my full presentation last time. So the backstory here is the borough has some capital needs related to several types of projects. Those include some road projects, a sewer project, and a water project. And the concept was that because the borough thinks about their budget through different funds, we would structure a debt issuance to work around the funds that you receive revenues from. So for purposes of the general fund, there's a collective tax that covers your real estate tax that covers the general fund. The borough receives water rates and water revenues through its bills and sewer rates through its bills. In addition, as part of the general fund, the borough also receives funds through liquid fuels, which is a rate that is tied to the gas tax ultimately. So anytime you put money in your gas tank, a small portion of that goes to the state and it gets put back into all the local governments throughout the Commonwealth, and the borough receives an amount each year. So the concept was, as a portion of paying for each individual debt payment, it would come from the various funds. The one related to the general fund could be funded by, road projects could be funded by the liquid fuels fund. So that is the main concept here. So we went out and solicited local and regional banks throughout both Berks County and frankly, regionally. And you'll see why when you see a couple of the names, you go, wow, who is that? But I will give you some background behind who they are when we receive it. So the backstory is we have $1 million worth of road projects, $300,000 worth of project for sewer, and $700,000 for water projects. So kind of those 3 buckets, payment of cost of issuance potentially, and what is called capitalized interest, which I touched on in the last meeting. So when you see the totals, it's kind of all in encompassing all of it to make the project work. I'm gonna play the lottery tonight because we came in essentially within 1 basis point or 0.01% of the estimate of what I showed you guys at last meeting. So good news is the interest rate environment, fit within what we were talking about. Cole's gonna touch on the proposals itself. Everyone should have received a copy of our results. There's a landscape summary of the 4 different options, and Cole will run through what we received, and we'll go into some more details.
Would you mind going through the 3 buckets, dollar amounts again?
Sure. So for the road projects, it's $1 million. For the sewer project, it's $300,000. And for the water project, it's $700,000. And I'll be specific to say that the sewer project is tied to the balance of funds needed because you have some ARPA funds and grant funds you received for a larger project. Can't tell you exactly how much that was for, but it's about $300,000 is needed to kind of finish up the balance of the project. Okay.
All right, so if you guys flip over to page number 4 here, there's our table that shows the 4 proposals we received from banks. I'm going to give an overview on the 2 most attractive ones here. Top, JP Morgan Chase. As under the fixed rate column, you can see they kind of bid on each of our series or pieces of the loan individually. So Series A, which is tied to the rover, they provided an option that is not prepayable, that's what the call option means, at a 3.95%, or an option that will be prepayable after June 1st, 2028 at 4.35%. And then Series B is tied to the sewer project. The term is too short for them to provide a prepayable option, but that's at 5%. And then the Series C, that's tied to the water portion, they provided a prepayable option at 4.02%, and then a prepayable on June 1st, 2028 at 4.42%. These rates that we received are to maturity. Then to the right, you can see the bank fee of $7,500. It assumes that we are going to be fully drawing the funds at settlement. And those conditions that are outside of financial reporting. And then down number 2, Webster Bank, which is kind of our other front runner here in the proposals we received. They bid on all 3 pieces as one, with a fixed rate of a 4.49% through maturity, bank fee of $5,000. And this will be prepayable after June 1st, 2030.
So when you look at these proposals, obviously we did some math here because as you can see, we received options from JP Morgan that had different interest rates based on the method at which we would consider. I would first say, I would not do any proposal that is non-callable for the whole term because I want us to have the ability to prepay it at some point in time. So when we did our analysis, we made the assumption of taking the JP Morgan options that were prepayable where you could. So that's at 2028 maturity. So what that means is, in the next 3 years, if interest rates are below a certain interest rate, it makes economic sense. We can refinance them without any penalty. Okay? Webster Bank, who provided us a 4.49% rate, theirs has a 2030 call provision, meaning you have to wait until that 2030 time to do that refinancing. So it's a little less flexible, but still within a 5-year range is reasonable in this environment. So we did some comparisons of if you chose the options from JP Morgan versus Webster and figured out what mathematically is the best alternative. Now the interesting dynamic here is, and this is going to get a little more information you need to know, but JP Morgan's offer is not locked in today. Okay? Their rates are called indicative, which means that their interest rates will move between now and when you may consider locking in the proposal. Okay? And based on our conversation is, we were going to have that approved at your next meeting on the 24th. So for those 2 weeks, if interest rates go up or down, those individual interest rates may change. And I'll tell you what that sensitivity analysis means, but there is some risk to you if interest rates go up more than a certain threshold to make it worse than what we received from Webster Bank. Okay, so that's a small dynamic. That's what JP Morgan does, they don't lock in the rates until you're ready to go. Webster has said, we're comfortable, we're gonna hold these rates until this period of time, as well as until settlement, so their rate is at 4.49%. When you consider all of the various interest rates based on the indicative rate from JP Morgan, the average rate is about 4.4%. So we're very close in interest rate. What does that mean in dollars and cents? It means $13,000, all in, over the life of the loan. So we're talking about $1,000 per year difference between one versus the other. So if interest rates go up by about 0.1% between now and the 24th, it would be break even. That's how close it is in interest rate. Frankly, Friday, interest rates went up after the bids were received. I didn't make any sense to go get a new rate today, but I talked to the bank, and we can certainly get updates throughout the next week or so. But I'd like us to have a consensus of an idea of which way to go following this meeting, because there's some planning that needs to happen to move forward with the transaction on the 24th. So I just want to kind of throw that out there as a concept. But the good news here, these are both excellent proposals. The fact that we received the average rate under 4.5%, and providing the funds necessary to do the projects as described. So I will talk about what it means ultimately, but it's going to look very similar to what we talked about in January as far as the economic impact for you. I'd also note, and I think you had this question at the last meeting about the liquid fuels fund. I'm not sure if you provided that information or not, but we prepared an analysis to prove out how much funds would you have over the next 5 years based on an initial balance of your liquid fuels account, and utilizing some of those funds to pay for the salt, paying for the debt service, and making an assumption that you receive less liquid fuels money each year by a certain percentage, and increasing the cost of salt by a certain percentage. So we try to take a conservative approach. I'm not sure I'll get it exactly right. And the good news here is there's enough funds available over the next 5 years or so to actually increase your balance because of how much you receive and how much you may earn on those funds as well. So we did do some sensitivity to give at least me comfort, and hopefully you some comfort that the funds that are sitting in the liquid fuels account, plus the funds you may receive, should be enough to cover other projects, as well as cover the annual debt service that we had assigned to this. Okay. So just talking about the numbers itself, and I'll really turn to the next page, which is page 5. Again, these are going to look very similar in impact, whether it's JP Morgan or Webster, but the colored sheet that we had showed you before is going to look like this for Webster and JP Morgan. So keep in mind that we have those 3 pockets of money. We'll start with the general fund, which is some road projects. Right now, the borough budgets $115,000-ish per year in annual debt service on its outstanding loan that you have. That debt will mature in 2029, and when you include a proposed borrowing amount that we've talked about, a little over $1 million, and you amortize it as we described over a 13-year period, the resulting annual debt service starting in 2026, not 2025, would be about $163,000. If you choose the concept of utilizing approximately $50,000 of liquid fuels funds going toward that annual debt service, the net impact to the budget from a general fund standpoint would be about what you're paying today. So again, taking into account that $50,000 a year between now and maturity, structuring of it would extend your overall debt to 2037. But again, from a budgetary standpoint, it would have no impact on your general fund. Okay? As far as the yellow section, this is the sewer project. Because we need $300,000, and because currently the borough budgets $260,000 a year in debt service from its existing loan, we structured this in a very short portion of debt. So you can see the final maturity on column 11 would be in 2027. But having the amortization be in that short and having it amortized that way, your budget would be essentially break even from what you're currently paying today, and it would only amortize over a couple of years. So there's very little interest expense at the 5% interest rate overall, and you have no budgetary impact on your sewer fund. You just really just extend your budget by about another year. And then finally, the water fund. The water fund is the only fund you don't have any debt on currently. So this is no different than what we talked about last week. If you amortize the debt, that would mature in 2037 at a $750,000 amount. So it would be about $80,000 per year. So the water fund would have to budget that amount. Understand in all these cases, there is no budgetary impact in 2025, and that's because we are borrowing what is called capitalized interest, which just means we're borrowing the interest that is due to the bank as part of the funding of this, and there would be no impact in 25. And then again, going forward, because of the way we structure the principal, they'd be paying back in a similar fashion to the current budget.
May I?
Yes?
Be sure this is correct in my understanding. We currently budget nothing for water debt.
Correct.
And you're proposing we come up with 80,000, a little bit more.
That's correct.
In water debt.
That's correct.
Why would we do that?
Because you have to do projects. If you choose to do projects, this is borrowing funds for a long-term capital need.
It would be a monthly payment of about $6,666, generally speaking. If you took the 80,000 divided by 12 months, that'd be the monthly payment.
So like with any kind of long-term capital need, the conversation of do you pay for the projects out of your current balances or one-time costs are obviously a question. In this case, what we're saying is this is a long-term need of the borough, so we're amortizing it for a 13-year period. And for budgetary purposes, that $750,000 or so, $700,000 or so you'll receive would be pay back about $80,000 per year between now and maturity.
So for 13 years, we're paying interest.
Correct.
As opposed to waiting, and we'll have our money to do the project in 13 years. Why not wait until 13 years from now and do financing then, instead of paying interest all those?
This is your question. I'm providing you a funding solution for the loan. If you need to do those water projects sooner than 13 years is really the question. And one of the concerns you have as sitting on your side of the table is by waiting that long, the inflationary cost of the project, let alone what the capital needs may be higher than what you're thinking about today.
So, excuse me, so to borrow $752,000, our cost to borrow that would be about $217,000 roughly. If that's a difference between the $969,000, that's a total of what we pay out over the term of this fund. So in order for us to borrow $752,000, it'll cost us $217,000 in interest. Is that correct?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
About right. Just want to make sure I'm making.
And
my
that's at a
numbers
rate
correct.
of
Okay.
that's at a rate of about 4.42%. So another argument you can make, and it's playing an interest rate calculation, but you're borrowing at 4.42%. Today's dollars, and I don't know what you earn at your local right now. You're earning on your current funds.
Not a lot.
Okay, well, you should be earning around 4.5–5% right now on those funds in the current market. It will go down potentially if the Fed drops rates, but generally speaking, if you believe or keep your budget around the same, let's say it's 2%, you're earning today's dollars at a rate close to or a little lower than what you're borrowing at. But again, this is a question of, do you want to do the capital project today or not? That's the concept. I'm not an engineer, I'm just a finance guy. So this is the solution to cover your project on the water side today.
So that $752,000 will be sitting in our kitty for use.
For use that you have to use within 3 years.
It has to be, I noticed that, these are pretty tight windows.
Yes.
That concerns me because of the difficulties we have trying to get.
I should say reasonably expect to use the money. within 3
We
years.
haven't had problems getting bids on any of our projects. We've had really good.
3 that I did have come in under my estimate. We've had really good bids on it.
Linear projects, is that what you said?
Water lines, sewer lines, yes.
So it might take how long to get these projects done? Over the course of a couple of years, would you say? So 3 years' time, we're gonna dwindle through that principal, but during the time that we have some amount of principal in our account, we could possibly put that into something to recoup some interest on earnings.
Yeah, so, I mean, ultimately what would happen is you'd receive the
Offsets.
$700,000 at settlement, and then, again, assuming the borough has reasonable expectations to spend the money within 3 years, which I heard from you at the last meeting, you do, then those funds would go into that account, and as you go through the bidding process or, go out get materials, you'll start to pay for those capital projects over a period of time, and then you can utilize those for the project itself. So yes, you will earn something on the money, but in addition, you would have the money available to you so you can go through the bidding process for the contractors to know what's going on.
It can also be used as your match for current projects that are coming out. They just released the small water and sewer again. So that's one of the things I'll talk about in my report, but that's a 15% match. So you can use, you'll have to, if you want to apply for that, you'll have to have that money earmarked for.
Yeah, in some cases you can't start the projects to get the grants, but if you have the money, it's a positive.
Yes.
It's part of the process.
So I'm gonna probably have some more questions for you, which I don't think now's really the place and time. I wanna go through this and digest this.
Okay, yeah,
So
well, that,
maybe we could meet another time, if that's possible, and how the rest of the council feels, so we could look at some of these numbers.
well, there's a couple thoughts here from a timing standpoint. So as we talked about earlier, the proposals that we received from the local and regional banks, as part of the timeline, we told them that the consideration for the debt issuance would happen on the 24th. Okay. The financial analysis that we're showing here is, current
The
market.
24th of February?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep. So, that's how long at least Webster Bank is gonna hold their rates, as we talked about. JP Morgan's rate moves around a little bit.
Chase, they actually already expired.
They,
It had like
they're
7th of
they're gonna get us,
February on
yeah,
their
they're gonna get us a new one once the time comes. That's just the way they do theirs. But again, for purposes of discussion, you've got a 4.49 locked in, and maybe you have a slightly better alternative. I'm not sure there's much more, things we'll get from there's nothing more to do on the backside. They both approved the credit of the borough at this point in time. And for, your perspective, how the legal process works is, should you decide to move forward with one of them, you would have to then do an advertisement in the Ready Eagle 3 days in advance of your next council meeting. That would notify both the public that you may be considering incurring debt at that meeting, where there would be an ordinance prepared by legal counsel, which would authorize the acceptance of a proposal from one of these financial institutions for the amounts stated. As part of that, there would be an approval of a proposal from that bank, and then that proposal, along with necessary documentation for any debt issuance in Pennsylvania, would have to be filed with the Department of Community and Economic Development, which is called DCED, and their role is essentially to make sure that the borough has followed the proper statutes that are required under the Local Government Unit Debt Act. And they're not saying if your project is good or bad, they're making sure that you follow the T's and cross the I's or the other way around. And from there, within about 30 days is when you would then be able to settle on the transaction. So, from a purpose of, what we've described here, the mathematical analysis is there is no impact on your budget outside of your water fund. If you borrow the fund's water fund, you have an $80,000 increase that would start in 2026. So from purposes of looking at your water rates, that's what you would need to make sure that you can comfort. And I did not do your water study. Did you? I don't know if you did it or someone else did the water study. But that's the economic impact. Again, the general fund and the sewer fund would have no impact on the budget at all.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that 80,000 you mentioned is, say that again?
The way we structured this, the debt, for the water fund portion only, there is no budgetary impact in 2025. Starting in 2026, it would be approximately $80,000 going forward and for the next,
That we'd spend per year?
correct. That's what you have to budget.
Gotcha.
So you need to
Yeah, I
have
see here,
that amount of
80,000
money in your
every year,
budget
so-
starting next year.
Okay.
So there's a suggestion of raising water rates to get that money?
We need to look at your budget to make sure there's a comfort level that you have enough funds available for that. The analysis that the banks provided are comfortable with lending you the money, of course. This would be considered a general obligation issue of the borough. That's the way debt is issued under this particular structure. So although we are budgeting it based on various funds, it has the general taxing power of the borough, which is what drives the value to the banks. But again, from our perspective, we believe there's a budget neutral impact on most of it, again, outside of the water
I was
project.
gonna say, just for 1 year, and that's 80,000 per year, so that's $6,666 roughly per month, and not to
Cover the water.
find money.
The alternative is you don't do the water projects. That's, we can certainly not do the water project, that's up to you guys. That's why, there's many reasons why we did this in separate series. The first reason is, most importantly, the road projects itself, because they have a tie to liquid fuels, we need to have that separated for auditing purposes. Okay? So that's one of the main reasons. Then, just for ease of budgeting, frankly.
When you have that pretty conservative, and you have that at 50,000 per year, I think we get more than that.
You do.
Like 65.
And the idea behind that was to allow for you to use $15,000 per year for salt, and then maintain your balance, which again, I think at 350,000, it gets a little higher or lower, but it's pretty close to that. So again, we provided at least some analysis here just to make for sensitivity to see how that would look over the next 5 years. Again, I can't guarantee you'll get lower or higher liquid fuels funds, but again, we built the model and at least help you budget for it. So that's the story. Again, I'm happy to present the results. We did not do any advertising or anything for purposes of any execution of any ordinance. If I was sitting in your shoes and you want to do the projects, and it sounds like you have to do the sewer project, and you have a significant amount of road projects to do, this is a platform to do it. And then we were asked to get a proposal for the water fund as well, which we did. The only other thing that is just a consideration of what you'd like to do. I probably, if you're going to move forward with a transaction, we don't necessarily, we could choose one or the other, whether it's Webster or JP Morgan. The amounts you're borrowing are about the same. The ordinance would deliver one of the proposals from one of the banks. There is, more risk to choosing JP Morgan because rates could go up between now and then. But rates could stay exactly the same and you save $13,000 over the next 13 years. So again, not that you're gambling in any way, but the concept is that there's some risk to you that rates could go up between now and the 24th.
Why did you eliminate Capital One?
Rates are too high.
Very close.
4.7 versus 4.4.
So if they do elect not to do the water, it does not impact either of the proposals?
No. Yeah. Yeah, that's, we did, it's the way that the proposal was set up. It says it's a loan of the borough of blank $2-point-something million consisting of Series A, B, and C related to this amount, this amount, and this amount. So, we could certainly modify it to say we're only doing A and B as an example. And we could always get a revised proposal to that effect. That was not by design, but that was by design because of the.
I think they were,
close.
they wanted it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it can be modified.
Yes, it can.
Okay.
Yeah, you're on council. If you we're getting you the money, you can decide if you want to do our project or not, doesn't change my comment, what we do. I would, you know, I would also add, and this is an important point, with any local government transaction, you need to have, we have outside counsel working with Callowhill Stout. The borough in the past has used Stevens and Lee. They have a special lawyer that does that type of work.
Right,
His name is
we'll
Peter.
work with, as a matter of fact, we worked with the last time they were financing, we worked with Stevenson Lee, back in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, they work with all, a bunch of different so they would be the one that would prepare the advertisements on behalf of the borough, they would prepare the ordinance, and then they would also be the one filing with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania at the time of acceptance, and then, you know, prepare all the necessary documentation to get us to settlement. That settlement would happen in March, essentially the end of March, about 30 days after the acceptance default, so that's when the funds would be available.
Myself, I'd like to see a projection of what our budgets are gonna look like over the next, you know, how much we think our budget's gonna grow based on, we have a lot of unknowns right now. And we projected what our budget would be for 2025, that's our projection, right? I would like to see if there's a way we could calculate what you think our budget would be over the course of this time, how much it would grow. How much debt we would grow just in general in our budget for operating expenses, and we already kind of know based on, we put together as a contract if we could afford workers and other workers, but I'd love to see that number worked out, see how much our taxes are gonna grow as a result of this, not just in 2025. I wanna see how we can absorb how it's gonna look on paper, looking moving forward. I don't know if I would be ready personally to vote on anything this month, because I know it's gonna be difficult for you. Is there an urgency that we have to do this immediately?
Well, the Washington Street pump station needs to have all the funding lined up, so it's completed this year.
Really can't stick it out to bid if we don't believe we're gonna.
Have enough money to pay for it.
So-
We can, but if you don't have the
So
money.
we could just look at that particular,
Well, here's the argument against that, is if you borrow funds for just the sewer, you're paying cost of issuance to do a $300,000 project. Here, you know, doing it all at one time ultimately saves, because you're kind of combining it in one piece. And again, if you say you don't want to do the water projects, that's fine. It sounds like, again, there's some leveraging needs. And I'm not telling you that your operational budget shouldn't be addressed. I'm talking about how the capital would be covered.
right, and I'm just saying that I would like to, myself, like to see what this debt, in addition to all the other debt we're gonna incur, what that dollar amount is gonna be. So, because we, you know, 1 mil increase is $78,000.
to
And, you know, we have to increase taxes as inflation hits all of us, right? So,
Again, this should not impact your operational budget. This should impact, because you're already budgeting for the debt at this number, both on the general fund and on your sewer fund. So there should be no impact at all to your budget when it comes to that. You know, your police, I mean, you're having your police going somewhere else, you have other things, but that's a different conversation. This is not related to that at all.
well, you're using the fuel money to pay.
Yep.
So that's money that,
You can only use for street projects.
right, so that I
So-
understand, that's good, it's gotta be used that way. And then how much, you know, you're looking at $163,000 roughly per year.
And you're already budgeting 115. So the $50,000 difference is made up for in the
Okay,
fuel, so there's
gotcha.
no impact to your general fund at all.
Okay, and so with, so to borrow $1,074,000, which is what you're saying in your general fund, then our cost to finance that, am I correct, is it 374, almost 375,000, is that the right number? Like what
You mean how much interest you pay?
how much interest I pay over the levy?
Yeah, on the general fund.
I just wasn't sure because there's two different columns
Yeah,
here. It
so-
has estimated annual debt, and then it has general fund debt service.
So your budgeted debt service
One council
on
member.
this is about $400,000. So that's on column, when you look at column 6 in the blue. On the
Okay.
bottom of that, it shows a $1,461,000. So
Yeah.
essentially you subtract 1,461 minus.
Yes, I came out 374,000.
We show column 7 because that's your total debt service, which includes your existing payment.
That's what I was
And your
wondering, because that
budget.
comes out to a different, yeah.
So as I
okay.
mentioned, when you budget combined, it's 164,000, but when you net out the 50,000,
Mhm.
that's why the net number comes in about what you're paying now when you're
Okay.
changing.
Thank you.
So if we were to do this, and for this in February, and we decided we wanted to take the water part out, how much notice would you need for that angle? Because that seems the only thing that's really.
Yeah,
pushing.
I'm not preparing the legal document, but
Oh, yeah, how much?
I'll pretend it's me, I'll answer it. The lawyer can certainly, if we know in advance, within a week, I think it's fine, because ultimately, worst case scenario is the advertisement goes in the paper as the totals going on, and we've made that advertisement, but then we come in with an ordinance that's either updated, or frankly, you can revise it.
You could revise it lower most likely without having to re-advertise.
Yes,
It's
correct.
only when you revise it higher that I think you can re-advertise.
Yeah, that's why, I'd rather do that, but I wanna make sure, we have to follow the rules
For sure.
for state, for state guidelines.
Julie, you're thinking along with the sewer as well, funding,
No, because that,
sewer in general?
yeah, do both, and then if water needs to.
That's what yes, I'm just asking, is that what you're thinking?
I would, yeah, I don't know what everybody else is thinking.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't cost you less by doing a smaller amount, besides the interest expense by it, but the cost of issuance are all around the same, that's what's going on. So I would prefer you not to say, let's do this, A and B, and then 2 months from now say, let's do that water project. It just wouldn't make a lot of economic sense for you. Yeah, no, I wanted the public to know that it's, there's a value in doing it all together.
So for the sewer portion of this, Stacy, how does that get paid? Like, do we have enough money in the sewer account to absorb?
We already have a loan that exists that we're paying.
That's exact payment.
So what's left on that for this year is 260,000 roughly? Okay, so that doesn't drop off until when?
It was going to drop off sooner, but now it's extended 1 year.
By a year.
Because I see it for 136,809, that's the second year worth.
Yep.
And then we're adding in an additional 123,400. So that's 260,000.
Yeah, you get exactly what you budget, is what's happening.
So making that payment, what does that come to and how is that going to affect our?
We already do it.
Okay, so that money that we're currently using for the current debt would just switch over to now paying for this debt?
Correct.
And what's the difference of, is the payment the same? I didn't crunch the numbers here, but are they?
The payment should not change at all.
No.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking at, okay.
Yeah, there should be no
It's just that the
change.
term extended 1 year.
Yeah, exactly right, and you're able to finish your project. Usually what happens in these circumstances with most local governments is there's always capital needs coming for utilities. And usually what happens is that around this time, someone fills in new debt issuance around that time to cover, and they work off the budget, they schools do all the time. This is the same case here. We just happen to be able to fund a small balance of what's left over within a year. So you're able to do what you need to do without really extending that debt. And from your perspective, again.
And the sewer does need that. It
Yeah.
needs its debt to go away for a while.
So it was
Can
really,
bank some money for a little while.
and if you do, once that happens, you've got the pump station updated, your debt disappears, and you can build a capital reserve, and if something were to go, you can decide to either borrow or use your own funds to cover that. That's a policy question, but that's what we do. Any other questions on these hot numbers?
Is
I
your
didn't-
phone number on here?
It's on the front page.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, I didn't go over Webster, to be honest, and the numbers, as I said, the difference between the one option versus the other, based on the rates we received on Friday, in total is like $13,000 difference, so there's no economic impact at all. That's why I didn't work. I feel, obviously, listening to the board here, obviously your final decision, should you decide to move forward, would happen on the 24th. So you still have time to run through the numbers, things through, there's no, but what I would prefer, if you choose this, is to at least allow the team to put together the necessary documentation, advertisement for your meeting on the 24th. And if, between now and then you want to mix it, fine, that's okay. But I'm not coming back here, in between then. So that's my ask of you.
I'd like to know the circumstances and the name of a bank where I can get 4.5% interest.
Please,
Pliget, where are they located?
Harrisburg.
You mean if you put money in an account, is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Very good.
Charlie Schwab's giving almost 4.5.
Schwab?
Yeah, it needs to be
It's gotta be, it's gotta be.
you may have an investment policy, but under Borough Code, there's certain banks and financial institutions you as a local government can utilize to invest liquid funds in. But, several, there's some out there that are providing that 4.5% to 5% rate.
Does that require $1 million or no, whatever you have?
Yeah, you have to be, for Pliget, and I'm not repping Pliget, just so you know. Pliget is an investment trust that was created back in, 50 or so years ago. Local governments throughout the state, it's not a bank, it's an investment trust. What they do is they take the funds received from local governments and pool them into large investment vehicles. Usually what they invest in is U.S. Treasuries and other agencies that are required under local state government, and they provide a variable rate liquid return. Each individual investor, no different than a bank, receives statements and everything else, but they're very common. Again, their rates move with the U.S. Treasury market. Again, there are local banks and regional banks out there that have some investment returns in a similar fashion. I'm not looking at it as, but they are out there. But Pliget, I believe you may or may not have been a part of their pool in the past, but to be a member, if you're not a member, you just have to execute a resolution to be part of it.
Joan, are there restrictions on where we can put borough funds?
Yes. Yes, the Borough Code contains restrictions on the types of not only institutions, but also the types of investments.
And most local banks, have certain accounts that are available for local governments. And as I mentioned, Pliget being an investment trust is only made for local governments to invest in. So they're an alternative. The good news is, the rate that you borrow at, you can earn and keep above what you're receiving. So if we do borrow at 4.49, and during the couple years, if you invest at a higher rate, whatever you earn above it, you can keep for purposes of arbitrage rebate. It's the good news problem. So you will earn about what you're borrowing at under the current interest rate environment. Interest rates go down, then you earn less.
Well, and as we start using our principal, now that dwindles away, so we have less money to gain interest on, so
Yeah.
that's not really it'll help us initially, but.
I mean,
we
the
can
IRS
also
wants you
short-term
to spend your money. They don't want you borrowing to invest in. They want you to borrow to use projects.
That's why you sign all those non-arbitrage opinion letters and certificates.
That's why I keep saying reasonable expectations, is there's federal tax law rules that require you to borrow funds for projects.
Moving forward, I would like to see some calculations, if possible, on what our budget's gonna look like, just moving forward, if we decide to do the water part, because that would be.
For what it's worth, my firm does water rate studies. We're happy to do one. if you'd like, as part of this transaction. But you may have your sewer or water engineer that wants to do it, but that is something we can do as well.
I meant just like for our budget, like how much is our budget gonna grow over the next 10 years to see kind of projection. What I think would be.
I think it's just the water rates that matter.
Right,
I
and this has nothing to do with general fund in this case, so, you know, you just have to determine in 2026.
I can't see putting